since our test run of the unit. Now you can see we have it tore back down. We took the tire off. We found that the bearing is out on the cylinder. Found excessive vibration, seen the seal moving around, and so we found this bearing to be out. So we thought, well, since we have to remove this stuff anyway to get it out, make it easier, we took the tire back off. We took the variator out that you've seen spinning in the previous video, and we're going to have new bearings put in it by the Massey dealer. And we took the little cylinder off because we were here anyway. We'll have a new kit put in. It was weeping oil. It wasn't like draining on the floor or anything, but they take a lot of vibration, so they usually end up leaking, and then they coat the machine with oil over time as you're combining. So we're now pulling the bearing. Now we've got a puller. We don't know how well this is going to work. They're on there tight. You will have to put some power on them. We think we have it moving. I got this puller from Napa, and we're either going to break it or it's going to do it. It was $40 for the whole pulling set. I did not have a puller like that, and I don't think the dealer would probably loan me one. I was going to ask this morning, but he was out on service call. And so that's what we're doing. And since we're doing one, we're going to do both. The one on the other side. And we're also, probably, just because we're here, we're going to change the rasp bars. These bars here. Some of them are like good, but I've always heard a saying, if the bolt heads are wore, the bars are wore out. I don't know, it's hard to say, but we're here. We have a set that came in with another combine we bought. They're brand new. Why not use them? And we'll be set for the rest of our lives, or as long as we own the combine, for sure. I plan on keeping it a while, but never know when you might sell it. It'll have a brand new set of rasp bars in it. So we're all the way in. We removed the throat. We will probably just have both cylinders packed because they both have started weeping. This unit was built in '77. It's 36 years old, I think I calculated. They provide you in these flanges. These flanges are $165 from the dealer. The bearing is $65. I try, when I'm doing a major repair like this, I try to buy dealer parts. Now I could probably have sourced this at a bearing store and maybe got a better bearing because these are made in Mexico. Says it right on the bearing. And maybe they're alright. I don't know. It's always nice to have American made, but you can't find that anymore. Here's the back side of the bearing. And it would still spin, but you can see these ball races have broke right there. And it was just causing vibration. I think the machine will run smoother, and you know that's not going to last when you're wanting to use it. Not use a torch, however. You may not get as lucky as us, may not come off of the wall, but there's going to be grease and field residue behind there. And if you were cutting that out with a torch, not only would you destroy this dust shield that's inside the cylinder, you would start a fire.
What up having to do with this side of the shaft, we had the other side came right off without any heat and was real simple, but this side was a little more tricky. And what we did is I tried to heat on it. As you can see, there's a little bit of black marks and stuff, but nothing too major, not a lot of major paint discoloration. How I accomplished that was I took this piece of metal, put over it as I heated it, and that kind of helped to control the flames and the heat. But what happened, I couldn't get it off with the assistance of the heat, so as I continued to pull, it just pulled the housing off of the bearing. As you can see, the puller's still attached to it. So I ended up cutting the bearing off. As you can see here, I just took my time, very minimal heat, and I barely licked it, and it actually wasn't licked completely in half. It was very thin. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it was very thin. And then I took a couple of screwdrivers and wanted to tear the metal open instead of getting into the shaft. Just take your time, and this will definitely be a challenge for anyone that wants to attempt it. You saw I used this to protect against the black smoke and to burn the paint, which you can see there is some black in there. What I didn't want to have is a combine fire. And so what I did was take a piece of scrap 22 gauge galvanized steel and lay it inside. I don't know if you can see that or not, but all those little molten metal BBs would have fallen through. There's some more. They would have fallen through into the cookie pan, which we happen to know has some dirt on it from our washing. And it's just another way to protect your combine. Always better to err on the side of caution. Here we are at the parts combine. As you can see, still not too bad with no protective metal. All I did on this one, because all we're interested in is the bearing housing, I was cautious not to damage this shaft. So here we are. We have our part sandblasted, clean back to bare metal. We're going to paint it with the gloss red paint. And here is our bearing. Now, what I don't like about this, see if I can do this one-handed, is this bearing. The original in the junk combine didn't spin, but this one does seem to be just a hair loose. I can install it by hand, although now of course it seems very tight, but it is in there at an angle. So what we're going to do is use our rosebud torch, heat it up real nice and hot, and then let it contract slowly, and then we'll see how our bearing fits. Okay, now the variator side of the combine, this bearing came off with no heat, and it really, the housing is in excellent shape. It when you I can't go any farther by hand, that's where she stops. That is definitely an excellent housing. We'll be able to push that in there either with gentle hammer taps or perhaps a pipe in the vise over there. Now, I've shined this shaft with emery cloth and did a pre-fit before I put the housing on to make sure that this bearing slides on and off very easily. And we removed, instead of removing this hydraulic line, which you can see is in the way, if you take your brackets off here and below the variator arm, you can pull this hydraulic line enough down to get your bearing housing off. Once again, this bearing pulled off very easily with no heat, and there's no marks or anything. I'm going to re-pull this bearing off, and we're going to use this Napa brand anti-seize lubricant, which just helps if we ever need to get back in here in the future. With the help of our rosebud torch, we were able to heat this bearing up, and now the bearing is not removable by hand. It doesn't spin. You need to stick a hammer handle in it to pry it around. It's nice and tight. So now we're going to install it on the combine.